Have you ever wondered why some women seem perfectly polite, respectful, and distant, yet later, when you finally move on, you discover she was quietly interested the whole time? It's one of the most confusing traps men face today, confusing respect with desire. On the surface, they can look almost identical. A woman who admires your presence might avoid crossing boundaries, keep her distance, and treat you with calm politeness. A woman who is attracted but doesn't want to expose herself too soon might do exactly the same thing. And here's the danger if you can't tell the difference. You'll either push too hard and lose her, or you'll sit back and let interest slip through your fingers. Imagine this. You're at a cafe. She smiles politely when you ask if the seat is taken. She thanks you for holding the door. She laughs lightly at something you said. But she doesn't lean in, doesn't touch your arm, doesn't ask a follow-up. You walk away thinking, she's just being nice. But weeks later you hear from a friend she actually liked you, but she thought you weren't interested. That's the silent battlefield. Respect and quiet attraction both wear the same mask, restraint. The first thing you need to know is this: respect without interest feels light. It has no weight. A woman who respects you but doesn't want you will keep everything flat, clean, professional, no sparks, no subtle tension. Her body language will stay neutral, no lingering glance, no pause before answering, no micro hesitation when the conversation should end. She keeps it safe because she's not invested. That's respect. But quiet interest is charged. It's in the pauses, the slightly longer eye contact, the way she remembers details she had no reason to store. She may not reach for your hand, but she might play with her hair when she's speaking. She may not ask you out, but she'll position herself so you accidentally cross paths. Here's the trap: men often chase respect and ignore interest. Why? Because respect feels good. It feels clean. It feels validating. But it's sterile. If you mistake respect for interest, you'll keep pouring your energy into a woman who will never cross that line. And you'll miss the subtle signals of another woman who's quietly burning for you, but doesn't want to risk embarrassment by making it obvious. Let's make this practical. Imagine you're texting a woman. You ask a simple question: how was your day? She replies with, good, thanks. Yours? That's respect. She's polite. She reciprocates, but she doesn't give you anything to work with. Contrast that with quiet interest, good. But I've been exhausted. Coffee's the only thing keeping me alive. Do you ever drink too much of it? See the difference. Respect gives you a closed door. Quiet interest cracks the door open, just enough for you to step inside. She gives you a detail, an angle, something you can connect with. Another example: you're walking down the hall at work. A woman who respects you gives a professional nod. That's it. A woman who's quietly interested, she'll hold that nod for 1 second longer than necessary. She'll look at you when she doesn't need to. She'll ask a question that doesn't really need an answer. These are not accidents. They're calculated risks. And here's your move. You don't chase the sterile respect. You don't reward politeness with overinvestment. Instead, you sharpen your perception. You test interest with small, calibrated steps. Crack a joke that could fall flat. See if she leans in or lets it die. Share something vulnerable but light. See if she meets you or stays on the surface. If she meets you, if she invests back, that's quiet interest turning louder. If she doesn't, that's just respect. Stop pushing. Respect doesn't transform into attraction. What most men do wrong is overreading politeness. They mistake her courtesy as a green light and keep investing. That's when she pulls away. Not because she was playing games, but because she never gave you anything beyond respect. You created the fantasy, and fantasies will bleed you dry. The truth is simple: respect doesn't escalate. Interest does. Respect stays flat no matter how much time passes. Quiet interest builds slowly, sometimes invisibly, but always upward. Your job is not to chase, not to press, but to notice the trajectory. Is it flat? That's respect. Is it inching upward? That's interest. Once you can tell the difference, you save yourself years of wasted energy. Now think about your own life. How many times have you mistaken politeness for attraction? How many women have you kept chasing, only to realize she never once moved the needle? And on the other side, how many subtle glances, lingering words, or tiny acts of investment did you dismiss because they didn't look like the bold signals you expected? That's where your blind spot lives. And until you clear it, you'll keep confusing the two. Have you ever chased a woman who only respected you but wasn't interested? Did you ignore the one who gave you quiet signals of attraction? Which mistake have you made more often? Be honest in the comments. You've probably felt this before. That strange tension when a woman's signals are just unclear enough to leave you questioning yourself. She's not cold, she's not warm, she's polite, sometimes engaging, but never definitive. This limbo drives men insane because you start filling in the blanks yourself. You imagine she's interested, because the alternative that she's only respectful feels like rejection, and rejection is something you'd rather delay than face. But here's the hard truth: the longer you sit in that limbo, the more power shifts away from you and into her hands. Women rarely spell things out. They don't say, "I respect you, but I don't desire you," even when that's exactly what's happening. Instead, they let the energy speak. If she respects you, she'll keep things balanced, clean, predictable. She won't give you her time outside of necessity. She won't initiate contact. She won't break her own rhythm to fit into yours. Respect is safe. She'll never risk misunderstanding, never risk leading you on. But if she's quietly interested, she will, at some point, make space for you where she didn't have to. She'll send a message first, ask you about something small in your life, or coincidentally show up in places you're likely to be. Let's make this sharper with a story. Imagine you're at the gym. There are two women you notice. One of them always smiles politely when you pass by. She thanks you if you hand her a weight, then gets right back to her workout. That's respect. Neutral, polite, consistent. The other one also thanks you, but later you notice she chooses the treadmill next to yours even when others are free. She asks a casual question about your workout routine. She holds eye contact half a beat too long. That's not random. That's quiet interest. The difference is subtle, but it's there. Respect doesn't inconvenience her schedule. Interest bends it. The danger for men is over-investing in respect. You keep giving energy, attention, compliments, gestures, and she keeps giving you politeness. And you think, maybe I just need to try harder. No, that's where you bleed. The more you give to respect, the emptier you feel. Because respect doesn't escalate, it stays flat, no matter how much you push. But interest responds. If she's interested, every little thing you do shifts the dynamic. If she's not, nothing does. Here's a tactical frame you can use immediately. Test the slope. Think of her signals like a graph. Respect is a flat line. It never rises, never dips. Quiet interest slopes upward over time. The rise may be slow, but it exists. She invests a little more each week. She remembers details. She asks more personal questions. She reacts with stronger emotions. If you test the slope and it's flat, walk away. Don't beg, don't hope, don't waste your energy. But if it rises, even slowly, lean in, but only as much as she invests. Another scenario: you text her. She responds quickly, but always with short, polite answers. That's respect. Now compare it to another woman who also responds quickly but slips in a question about your day, a joke, or a comment that continues the thread. That's interest. Respect closes conversations, interest opens them. That's the difference. Men sabotage themselves when they treat every woman the same. They pour energy into respectful women, trying to earn interest. But attraction doesn't work that way. You don't earn it by effort. You reveal it by presence, and then test whether it exists. If it's not there, it won't magically appear. That's why detachment is your shield. You have to be willing to pull back the second you see it's only respect. Otherwise, you'll keep feeding her with your attention, and she'll keep taking it politely until you realize you've wasted months of your life. The cost of not knowing the difference. It's not just wasted time, it's the erosion of your self-worth. Because every time you invest in a woman who only respects you, you unconsciously tell yourself, her politeness is enough for me. I don't need real interest. And soon, you start lowering your standards without realizing it. You accept crumbs. You start believing attraction is rare, when in reality you've just been blind to the subtle signals of interest. Here's a tactical exercise the next time you interact with a woman. Ask yourself one question after every exchange. Did this interaction open a door or close one? Respect closes. Interest opens. If she gives you one-word answers, if she lets silence hang, if she keeps it professional, that's a closed door. If she adds details, if she engages beyond the surface, if she keeps the ball rolling, that's an open one. Stop standing in front of closed doors, knocking harder. Start walking through the ones already cracked open. Respect is a wall. Interest is a path. Your job isn't to break walls, it's to recognize paths and walk them with awareness. Now ask yourself, have you been knocking on too many closed doors, hoping they'd open with enough persistence? Or have you learned to walk through the doors women quietly crack open for you? And more importantly, what's harder for you, letting go of sterile respect or trusting the small signals of quiet interest? Share your story below. There's a hidden reason why many men confuse respect for attraction. We've been conditioned to believe that patience and effort will eventually pay off. You've heard it since childhood: work hard. Wait your turn. Be respectful, and the rewards will come. And while that's true in school or at work, it's fatal in dating, because female attraction doesn't operate on fairness, patience, or effort. It operates on instinct, tension, and polarity. A woman may respect you deeply, admire your intelligence, or value your kindness, yet feel nothing in her body that pulls her toward you. And if you mistake that admiration for desire, you set yourself up for the cruelest rejection, the one that comes after months or even years of investment, when you finally realize she never wanted you that way. Think about the nice guy who stays in a woman's orbit, always ready to help, always respectful, never crossing the line. He convinces himself she'll notice, that one day she'll see he's different, but she never does. Why? Because she categorized him as safe. Safe means no risk. Safe means no fire. And safe men are respected, but not desired. Meanwhile, another guy enters her life, teases her lightly, challenges her, makes her feel emotions she can't predict. That man may not even try as hard, yet she feels drawn to him. It's not fair, but it's real. Respect doesn't awaken desire. Tension does. Here's what you need to watch for. When a woman is quietly interested, her respect won't remain cold, it will start to warm. She'll test the waters by giving you opportunities to cross into her world. She won't announce it, but she'll leave space. She might say, "I'm terrible at fixing this app. I wish I had someone good at tech around." That's not just a random statement, that's bait. She's opening a door, seeing if you'll step in. Contrast that with a woman who respects you. She'll simply say, "Oh, you're good at tech. That's cool. End of story." Respect acknowledges, interest invites. Let's get tactical. You're at a dinner with friends, and she sits across from you. A respectful woman will engage politely when you speak. Nod. Maybe add a short comment. An interested woman will glance at you even when you're not speaking. She'll laugh harder at your jokes than necessary. She'll find a way to keep the conversation looping back to you. Respect doesn't circle back, it lands once and moves on. Interest returns, like a tide, over and over again. The danger here isn't just missing signals, it's being manipulated by them. Some women enjoy the power of ambiguity. They'll give just enough to keep you chasing, but never enough to escalate. That's when you need to cut through the fog with clarity. Ask yourself, does her behavior lead somewhere, or is it looping endlessly? If she flirts but never accepts a date, if she texts but never commits to plans, if she praises you but never leans closer, that's not quiet interest. That's control through attention. The cure: withdrawal. Stop feeding her. If she's truly interested, she'll bridge the gap. If she's not, she'll fade. Either way, you win. Most men get trapped because they fear losing even that small dose of respect. You think, at least she's polite. At least she responds. But that's scarcity thinking. You settle for her scraps instead of demanding genuine investment. And here's the reality: every moment you waste on sterile respect, you're blind to the women quietly signaling real attraction. You only have so much attention to give. Waste it on the wrong one, and you'll miss the right one. Let's talk about testing. The simplest way to separate respect from interest is to add pressure. Respect collapses under pressure. Interest leans in. Example, you tease her lightly. You always order the same drink. Are you secretly afraid of change? A woman who only respects you will brush it off. Keep it neutral. A woman who's interested will play back. Maybe I'm just waiting for someone to impress me with a better choice. That's interest turning the spark into fire. Another: test proximity. Move slightly closer in conversation. If it's only respect, she'll subtly adjust back to create distance. If it's interest, she'll hold her ground or even lean in. Respect protects boundaries, interest bends them. You need to stop over-investing before you test. Too many men give everything away: attention, time, validation without clarity. By the time they test, they're already too deep, afraid to see the truth. Don't do that. Test early, save your energy for the women who meet you halfway. The cost of not testing: it's brutal. You become the friend she respects. You become the man she talks to about the guy she actually desires. You become the placeholder, the emotional sponge, the eternal gentleman who never gets the girl. And years later, you'll look back and realize you weren't unlucky, you were blind. So let me ask you, how many times have you been the man who waited, convinced her respect would turn into attraction? And how many times did that waiting end with her choosing someone else? Someone who risked testing her quiet signals earlier. Be honest with yourself and tell me in the comments, what's the hardest part for you: pulling back when it's only respect, or trusting the tension when it's quiet interest? The most painful realization you'll ever face as a man in dating is this: she respected you, but she never wanted you. That's why so many men walk away bitter, confused, even resentful. You kept showing up, thinking consistency was the key. You believed politeness meant progress, and the entire time, she never once crossed that invisible line between admiration and desire. You built castles in your head from grains of sand she left on the floor. That's why you need to become ruthless about separating the two. Respect feels good, but it doesn't move. It's steady, flat, unshaken by your charm, your effort, your presence. If you stop texting, she won't notice. If you disappear for a week, she won't reach out. That's not cruelty, that's indifference disguised as courtesy, but quiet interest. Quiet interest has weight, it tugs. If you step back, she notices the absence. If you delay replying, she wonders why. If you miss a gathering, she asks about it. Respect doesn't chase, interest pulls. Here's the tactical trap most men fall into. They confuse a woman's respect for playing hard to get. They tell themselves she's testing patience, that she wants them to prove consistency. No, that's a fantasy. Playing hard to get still comes with breadcrumbs of desire, teasing, eye contact, curiosity, playful tension. Respect doesn't play, it neutralizes. If she gives you nothing beyond politeness, that's not a test, that's a no. Let me give you a real-world frame. You're at a party, you crack a joke. A respectful woman smiles, nods, maybe says, "That's funny." That's the end. An interested woman, she laughs louder than necessary, maybe touches her hair, maybe even adds something to keep the banter alive. She's signaling, keep going. I'm with you. Respect is a period, interest is a comma, and yet, here's where it gets dangerous. Some women blur the line intentionally. They enjoy the validation, the energy you give. They'll send just enough mixed signals to keep you orbiting. They don't want you, but they don't want to lose the free attention. This is where your discipline matters most. If she's busy every time you invite her, but always flirts lightly just enough to reset your hope, you're not dealing with interest. You're dealing with control. She's keeping you in the middle zone, where you waste your time but never get close. And you'll stay there until you break your addiction to her politeness. So how do you cut through the fog? You put her behavior under pressure. Respect crumbles, interest rises. Next time she gives you a lukewarm answer, escalate slightly, make a bold statement, add a little playfulness, suggest something outside the surface. If she's interested, she'll rise to it, she'll match your energy, she'll contribute, she'll keep the flow alive. If she only respects you, she'll retreat into safe answers, short responses, polite distance. That's when you stop. You don't double down. You don't chase. You stop feeding the sterile loop. Here's a painful but freeing truth. Every moment you invest in a woman who only respects you is a betrayal of the women who might actually want you. You're wasting emotional energy on closed doors, ignoring the ones that quietly open for you. Attraction is rare, yes, but not as rare as you think. You just keep blinding yourself to it by fixating on women who give you nothing but surface-level courtesy. And make no mistake, the cost is heavy. If you keep confusing respect with attraction, you'll start lowering your bar without realizing it. You'll convince yourself that being respected is enough, that just being acknowledged is all you can ask for. That's how men shrink. That's how you lose the edge that makes you magnetic in the first place. Women don't want a man who clings to scraps. They want a man who knows the difference and walks away when it's not real. So here's your strategy from now on. Test early, detach quickly, and only invest when you feel the slope of interest rising. Don't mistake her courtesy for a signal. Don't keep knocking at a closed door. And don't let your fear of rejection trick you into accepting politeness as intimacy. Respect without attraction is just noise. Attraction without respect is chaos. But when both exist, when she both respects you and wants you, that's where power lives. Ask yourself now, how many times have you been stuck orbiting a woman who never actually wanted you? How much of your life have you lost waiting for respect to transform into attraction? And what would change in your life if you decided, starting today, that you'll never again waste energy on politeness without desire? Tell me your story. The hardest pill to swallow is that most men already know the answer deep down. You've felt it before, that sinking feeling that she doesn't see you the way you see her. But instead of facing it, you cling to scraps, the polite smile, the friendly text, the respectful acknowledgement. You convince yourself she's just shy, that she needs more time, that if you stay consistent, she'll eventually see your value. That's not patience, that's denial. And denial costs you more than rejection ever could. Because rejection at least gives you clarity. Politeness keeps you suspended. You don't move forward, but you don't fully walk away either. And that limbo is where men lose years of their lives. They stay orbiting women who never once signaled real desire, mistaking decency for devotion. And worse, they start building their identity around it. They become the man who waits, the man who gives, the man who respects himself into oblivion. Respect is good, but if you settle for only respect, you erase the very fire that makes you a man women can feel. Let's cut deeper. When a woman is interested, even quietly, her respect is tinged with vulnerability. She respects you, yes, but she also risks something. She risks embarrassment. She risks showing her hand. She risks stepping out of her safe zone. That's why you see the small tells the glance that lingers, the playful challenge, the unnecessary detail in her stories. Respect alone has no vulnerability. It's clean, safe, polished. It doesn't bend. It doesn't risk. Quiet interest bends. Quiet interest leaks out in ways she can't fully control. That's what you need to learn to see. Here's where men sabotage themselves. They keep giving without measuring return. If she answers politely, they double down with another message. If she thanks them, they buy her another coffee. If she says she's busy, they offer another time. And each time, they ignore the lack of reciprocity. They keep knocking on a door that never opens, and then they call women confusing. But the truth is, she wasn't confusing. You were just unwilling to accept what her behavior already revealed. So here's a tactical rule. Measure reciprocity. When you text, does she ask something back? When you share a story, does she add her own? When you suggest plans, does she counter with an alternative if she's busy? Respect ends with her side. Interest circles back to yours. If you don't feel that loop, if the energy never comes back to you, you're not dealing with attraction, you're dealing with courtesy. Another frame respect doesn't scale. Interest does. A woman who respects you will give the same energy on day 1 as she will on day 100. Flat, even, professional. A woman who's interested, even if she's subtle, will escalate. She'll invest more. She'll get bolder, more open, more present. If you can't see escalation, stop lying to yourself. You don't need to wait 6 months for evidence. It will show early if you're paying attention. This is why detachment is your greatest weapon, because when you're detached, you can actually see clearly. You're not blinded by hope, not addicted to crumbs. You can observe, is this going anywhere, or is it a flat line disguised as respect? Detachment gives you the ability to walk away without needing closure, without needing her to spell it out. You already know, and the second you walk, your energy returns to you. That's when you realize how much you've been draining yourself chasing shadows. The internal cost of not detaching. It's devastating. You start questioning your worth. You start thinking maybe you're not attractive. Maybe you're not enough. But it wasn't you, it was your blindness to the difference between respect and desire. Every man who's been friend-zoned has lived this mistake. You weren't in the wrong category because you lacked value. You were in the wrong category because you accepted respect as if it were interest. And once a woman files you under respect only, it almost never shifts. So stop investing in what doesn't escalate. Stop mistaking politeness for potential. And stop waiting for women to hand you clarity. You take it by observing, testing, and detaching. Once you master this, You'll never again waste energy on dead ends. You'll only invest where there's reciprocity, where respect and desire meet, and that's where you find relationships that actually ignite. Let me ask you, how many times have you ignored your gut because you didn't want to accept the truth? How often did you stay orbiting a woman long after you knew, deep down, she didn't want you? And what would your life look like if you finally trusted your instincts instead of chasing her politeness? Write it in the comments, I want to know. She didn't break you. She revealed what you were too afraid to protect.